Hi, morning everyone. I just would like to share my heart out. It's now our 36 years of being a movement in a church here in Metro Manila. I'm just reminiscing what happened during those 36 years. Just lots of memories. But one thing that really inspired me early on was the idea that somebody believed in me and trusted me to be able to also move in the gifts of the Spirit and be able to lead my own campus. Even though, we didn't have campus missionaries then, we didn't have pastors who would always watch us in our campus, but these few students were empowered to believe God for breakthroughs in their campuses. And it was just an amazing time where these missionaries would trust us to take ownership of our campuses as students. I'm remembering Acts chapter 8, when the great persecution came. The people were forced to be scattered all over the place in different regions outside of Jerusalem. And they were all scattered except the apostles. And if you read a little further, that's in verse 1. In verse 4, it was described that those who were scattered preached the word. Now that's just probably a normal story to some of us when we look through the verses. It's a phenomenal story because we're talking about the regular Joes. We're talking about the regular Juan de la Cruz, believers. And yet, out of that great persecution, instead of them hiding in their caves, they all the more preach the word, the Bible. And there are several factors. The Holy Spirit came in chapter 2, for they were inspired by Peter and John. But nevertheless, the idea that the believers were preaching the word is just amazing, especially nowadays in our culture, evangelical culture, where we give so much credit to the superstars and the men of God who are out there, but here we see the regular folks doing the works of the ministry. And I think we are in that same boat, at least similar boat during that time. They had great persecution, but now we are having this great virus that's put the entire world into a quarantine, or at least here in Manila we call it a lockdown. We're approaching the 4th month now of being on a lockdown, and so we are all forced to lead in our homes. We don't have pastors who can visit us, or our leaders and staff who would visit us, but we're the ones scattered back to our own homes across the city. And now is our chance to also be able to serve our family members and love on them. Sometimes the word leadership is a strong term, but in 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1, if I'm not mistaken, it says, should you desire to lead in church, that's good. It's not something to be set aside, but it's something to consider. Some of us, when we think of leadership, we think of Winston Churchill, all these great leaders. But just remembering one of my favorite war TV mini-series called Band of Brothers, that was shown, I think, in 2011. Just remembering the story, there were 3 types of leaders that I've observed in that mini-series. Number 1, there was this guy who was sent for a replacement leader from West Point to lead this team, the Easy Company, and he was more of a positional leader. He was assigned there, but during Blitzkrieg, when the Germans would attack their position, you won't get to see that guy who were assigned. He would be hiding somewhere, and when the dust settles, then he would show up. That's a guy who's a positional leader, but someone that you can't even rely on. The other leader is a legendary leader. The first guy, I don't even know the name. I was trying to research, I don't even know the name, and I think it's just okay not to remember his name. But this guy, Ronald Spears, this guy is so legendary that when there was a need to inform the other troops, their same in other company, but the same team, a group beyond the enemy lines, since they didn't have any radio, Ronald Spears decided just to take his rifle and he ran straight towards the enemy and across and went to the other side, informed the team, then came back running with his rifle back to his team. And it became a story, a legendary act of courage that inspired the rest of those part of that easy company who were a bit discouraged already. And they were just so glad that they had him as part of their team. But one time when there was a conversation in a chapel. By the way, I'm in our chapel here at the fort on the side, and while they were conversing, Lipton, Carwood Lipton, the guy who's just one of the guys, and Ronald Spears, they were talking. Lipton was telling Spears how much they appreciate him being around as a good leader, and everybody's inspired just having him around. But Spears looked at Lipton and says, what I've heard is this easy company, they had their leadership all along, and this person had been the one keeping them together, keeping the team together. He's the one who would give them direction. He would be the one who would visit them in their foxholes and visit them and encourage them, making sure they're all right, and he would inspire them, and then he would move on to the next foxhole and encourage and try to find out if they're doing good, doing okay. And Spears looked at him and says, "You don't even know who I'm describing, right?" And then Spears says, "That leader is you." And then Spears says, "By the way, you're not going to be first sergeant anymore. You're going to be a lieutenant. You're about to be promoted." You know what? Hearing that story, those three types of leaders, the guy who was just in leader by position, the other person has done so many great things that have inspired so many lives and so many people in that company. But there's this just regular guy who would just visit some of the other soldiers and find out if they're doing okay, and he would encourage them to stay focused and have their direction be clear, and he would find out if they're doing okay. We're like Carwood Lipton. We're just that regular Joe, and we might not think of ourselves as leaders, but I want you to know, because of your heart to serve, the Lord has put you in a place of influence at this time, at this season. As you continue to lead your families and serve them and love on them and continue to be an encouragement to them, without even you knowing, you have become an inspirational leader to them. I want to encourage you at this moment, at this time, where everybody's just focusing on themselves and some are in fear. I hope that you start thinking about there should be something beyond here. I know God has a plan. Even in this time of pandemic, God's mission is still there. His promises are still true. My encouragement is that for you to continue to hold on to His promises and hold on to God's mission, for the Lord is looking for men and women. They may not be that legendary like the rest of the other guys, but men and women whose heart's desire is to continue to trust His promises and His mission on this earth. May you continue to do what God has asked you to do, even in this time, because I believe the Lord wants to use you. God bless you.